Hello Mia, how are you doing? Thank you very much for coming on my tour today. Louise and Richard. Karen, woohoo! Claire, Joel, how you doing everyone? Christina, whoop whoop! For Christina. Welcome to Edinburgh. It's very cold today. Not anywhere near as cold as America or Canada, right enough, but it's a little bit chilly today. Quite a nice day, sun's out. Can you see the sun? Yep, sun's out. It's quite a nice day, quite fresh. It's not forecast to rain, but it rains 191 days of the year in Edinburgh. So I have brought my umbrella, just in case. I've also got my heated jacket on today. I've not had to switch it on so far, but I've lost another pair of gloves. One of the downsides of being a virtual tour guide or a tour guide in general is you have to take equipment with you and a bag for your gimbal and microphones, and you have to have gloves and things like that, hats, scarves, and I regularly lose gloves. I lost a glove doing a tour last year on Calton Hill on the Beltane Festival, and I went back up. No, it wasn't. It was just after the Beltane Festival. I'd done a tour on Calton. I finished the tour on Calton Hill, and I got home and I lost my glove. I went back the next day and somebody had put the glove on the bench, so I got my glove back because they were quite expensive gloves. But I've just lost one and lost another one. Is my gimbal less floppy? Asks Emma. Yes, I've got a different gimbal. Oh goodness, one's getting a bit excited there. Hello, who's joined? Let me see. Michael. Ashley, hello. Karen finally made it onto the Bodysnatchers tour. Ah, you should just tell me, Karen. I'll just download it for you and send you one. It's better live, right enough, you know. You can't see the chat when we download the videos onto YouTube. It doesn't include the chat, obviously. So it's quite strange watching the tour back when you just hear me randomly saying things because they can't see the chat. So that's why you should always read out the chat when you ask a question, when you answer a question, you see. And how's Emma doing? Are you back at work? Just, hello, Just. Aphrodite, Joe. Lorraine, how's it going? Chelsea. Burke and Hare were not Bodysnatchers. Yes, that's correct. They get called. They're probably the most infamous body snatchers in the world, and they never snatched a single body. It's bizarre. They're just called body snatchers for some reason. Get the wee coot things. Is that a wee coot there? The swan. No, any ornithologists here? That wee black thing. Is that a coot hen? Is that a wee coot? See it next to the swan. What's that? Anyone know? One more week and then a week off. The teachers are on strike in Scotland now and again. They keep on going on strike. Everyone's going on strike. Well, it's not as bad as England, right enough. The ambulance drivers and the nurses didn't go on strike here. Was it a coot? I thought it was a coot. A wee black thing, eh? Obviously, that's a young swan there. Linda. Lisa. Emma, your union did not strike. I think we should all go on strike. Mind you, nobody would notice if I was on strike apart from a couple of Voyagers. Michelle, Lisa, how are you doing? Thank you very much for coming on my tour today. It's nice to see everybody. Look at the sun, look at these horrible buildings. These are all student blocks, student accommodation. Look, they're horrible. They're building these, it's a big massive bone of contention, probably in quite a lot of cities around the world. Because Edinburgh's got 6 universities, they have to build lots of accommodation. And so what they do is they build these student accommodation blocks, right, but they don't pay council tax. So it's a bit of a scam. Hey, Agatha, how you doing? Welcome to Edinburgh, Scotland. Is anybody here for the very first time, by the way? Is anybody here who has not been on one of my tours before? Oh, look, Emma's confident. Emma's already left a tip. Look at that, everyone. She has every confidence in my ability to talk nonsense on behalf of Scotland. It's great getting paid to talk nonsense. I don't actually like swans. Joel, it's the first time on my tours. Well, buddy, you're in for a treat. Just don't take anything I say too seriously. You might not get my sense of humour, so you're better off if you don't get it. You know, not everybody gets my sense of humour. I can understand that, you know. And some people don't like my accent and my voice as well, and I can understand that, because I don't like my voice either. When I first became a tour guide, having to listen to yourself talking back was horrendous. Nobody likes to hear themselves speaking, I don't think. No, apart from narcissists, right enough, but yeah, would you like a wee house overlooking the canal here? Wee balcony. Not very attractive, are they? Joe has always wanted to see Edinburgh. Ah, well, you're only going to see the old town today, Joe, so you'll need to come on some of my other tours. I've got tours coming up. I've got a big interview tomorrow with The Guardian. I'm getting a travel feature. The Guardian and a Scottish newspaper called The Herald are doing a travel feature on Leith in Edinburgh, my hometown. Of course, I'm a tour guide in Leith. And so who have they chosen to do a travel feature on? Well, it's not the travel feature's not on me, but I'm going to be featured in the travel feature on the Guardian travel page or magazine or whatever it is. So quite excited about that. So that's tomorrow. So I'll tell you when the article is in the newspaper. I'm not saying that you would buy it, but I'll probably put a copy up on Facebook if you want. Connie, Rebecca, Artie, how you doing, bro? Suzanne. Look at these little barges. Look at the balconies. They're not very nice either, are they? Look at it. Did you think they're attractive? Maybe the ones at the top are a bit better. Suzanne, it's your first tour with you. Ho, 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 ho. I always get worried when people are on the tour for my first time. My tours are not really suitable for children. Most of my tours tend to have adult content, and sometimes I say things that are adult in content also, which sometimes gets me into trouble. But hey ho, life is too short. Helen and Tony and Diane, Suzanne. Well, yeah. Some people don't get it, you know, but you can't please everybody in life. Imagine if everybody was the same. How boring would life be then, you know? It's good to have variety in life. Variety is the spice of life, as they say. Look at these little beach huts, aren't they? Wonder who owns them. I've never brought my class on one of your tours. I used to work with children, right enough. You should. Emma, if you want me to do a kids, like a non-adult tour, I can do them, like, just, you know. So this is a shared cycle path and walking path. Mia, Mark. Oh, how you doing, Mark? You've decided to watch on my PC. You should plug it into the TV. I have my tours. When I watch tours, I plug it into my telly. You just shouldn't put the laptop on an HDMI lead and plug it into your TV. It's great. That's a school in there, by the way. I think that got voted the best school of the year, Boroughmuir High School. Are you still involved with Invisible Cities? Yes, I'm still involved. I'm doing some work for them. They've asked me to do some coach tours. They've got a contract with some travel company or something. I still do some training sessions with the tour guides as well. I became a mentor and a trainer for the tour guides in Invisible Cities, which was quite good. So I'm going to be doing some more training sessions with them. I recruited one guy. I recruited a trainee tour guide. One of my last things I did was two of the last things I did when I left Invisible Cities was I helped to train a female tour guide. We didn't have a female tour guide in Edinburgh anymore, so I helped to train up a female tour guide. And then just before I left, I helped recruit another tour guide, a guy. So, yeah, I'm still doing bits and bobs with them. I've offered my services. You had 2 female tours. They never ever completed the training, Mark. Yeah, we had Zainab and Adiela, was it? And yeah, we always get like, I mean, even the last training session, we started off with 11 people, and only one managed to finish. Only one managed to finish it, so it's very difficult, you know. Yeah, Zainab. Yeah, so they never completed the training. And one of them, I gave one of them a loan of one of my books to, and I never got it back. I was raging. It was a book about the new town of Edinburgh. It cost me £12, and I gave one of the trainees a loan of it, and she never gave me it back. I was raging, and it's quite a hard book to buy. The joys of life, you know. Such is life. Suzanne and Charlie, the rescue dog. How's life in Connecticut? How's the weather? Is it freezing cold over there? I know some parts of America were brutally cold. Claire, how's life, Claire? Freezing cold, yeah. I heard some parts of America and Canada are getting extremely low temperatures at the moment. One of my friends is in Nova Scotia. They were getting minus 19 and all that, Celsius. Imagine that. Oh. Claire's good. That's good, Claire. Well done. Thank you. Suzanne's in Minnesota and it's cold there. Oh. I feel quite cold today, actually, but I've got a heated jacket. Look. Look. See, I just pressed that button. Look, watch. It goes red. It's got 3 settings. You can put to low, white, medium, blue, and red for piping hot. My sister bought me it. It keeps me warm when I'm doing my tours. It's great. So I've just switched it on because it's quite cold today and I lost my gloves. But I've got one glove. I've got one glove on my gimbal hand. My gimbal hand has got a glove on it. Because that's what happens. I get really cold hands for some reason. They get really cold hands. Suzanne and Charlie, you're getting a heated jacket. They're good, like. You get heated gloves too. I think I might get heated gloves next year. I missed most of the winter this year because I went to Spain for 2 months to avoid all the cold weather. I went to Scotland, got hit with like quite low temperatures the day after I left to go to Spain. I went to Spain and it was 20 degrees Celsius. I was laughing. Artemis, that looks fantastic. Don't lose it. Well, yeah. Wouldn't surprise me if I lost it. Some people live on these wee barges here. I think there's somebody who lives on that one there. See that one there? Jeanette, how you doing? Hello, anyone who's just joined. Gillian and Jessica, I've never seen them. Emma's in the bath. Woohoo! Heated boots. Can you get heated boots? Oh, I like the sound of that, because my feet get quite cold as well. How's Jeanette? Deborah from Canada. Hello, it must be quite early there, is it? About 11 o'clock? No, 10 o'clock or something like that? I think somebody lives on that one. Lisa, how's life? DT, woohoo! It's only 7 in the morning, isn't it? Well, because Canada's got about 5 different time zones. The second biggest country in the world is Canada. Did you know Canada and Scotland actually used to be joined together? Got some exciting news about a collaboration tour coming up, looking at all the links between Scotland and Canada. 400 million years ago, Scotland and Canada were connected to each other. Can you believe it? Maggie. Oh, wake up, Maggie, I think I got something to say to you. See what I mean? I've got the habit of breaking into random songs that I can't even sing. Heather, how you doing, Heather? Where are you about, Heather? Are you in England? Oh, by the way, Scotland. England has got a population of 55 million. Scotland has got a population of 5.5 million. In England, 350,000 people play rugby. That's the Egg Chasers. And in Scotland, 30,000 people play rugby. And guess what? Scotland beat England again yesterday for the 3rd year in a row. What a game it was. One of the tries that Scotland scored was outstanding. So it was a good day yesterday, and my football team, my soccer team, Hibernian, they also won. So I had a few drinks last night. Becky. Gabby, hello. Andrew, how's it going, buddy? How's life? Susan, sorry. I'm getting a bit excited with my words. Oh, my jacket's heating up nicely now. My dog likes... I can't whistle. Hello, everybody. Hi there, how's it going? My tour's just started. Thank you so much for coming on my tour, everybody. Apologies if I haven't said hello, because sometimes I don't see everybody in the chat. Do you think you can get Nicola Sturgeon to do an interview to talk about Edinburgh? I don't know. Oh, Roberto, ¿cómo está, amigo? Mucho frío aquí en Escocia. Uf, no, España no more. This tour is not really suitable for kids, by the way, just in case there's any kids watching. Obviously, it's about serial killers. What, 14-year-olds? 13, 14 will be okay. 12 even, maybe? I don't know. I never swore in front of my son until he was 13. Well, before he left my house, I swore at him every day. So this is the Union Canal. This tour is about... Hello, Cafe. This tour is all about Burke and Hare. Two of the most infamous so-called body snatchers in the world. And the funny thing was, they never snatched a single body. They weren't body snatchers. Body snatching was rife at that time, at the start of the 19th century, but they were not resurrectionists, as body snatchers are called. And the reason I've come to the Union Canal, Yorkshire, all right, lads. Hello, Linda, how you doing, Cafe? So the reason I've come to the Union Canal is... People think that William Burke and William Hare, to let you know about their background, were Irish. There was a lot of Irish immigrants coming over to Scotland in this period. It was before the famine, but obviously Ireland was pretty much poverty-stricken. So they came to Scotland for work. They did both work on this canal. This canal was built at the start of the 1800s, the 1820s. This links Edinburgh to Glasgow. Edinburgh to Glasgow, and people think William Burke and Hare met here, right? They worked on this job. William Hare and William Burke, they did work on creating this canal, but they never actually met here. But there is a misconception that Burke and Hare met on the Union Canal because they both worked here. They actually met outside Edinburgh doing the harvest. In these times, people would move about. Depending on where they worked, there's no jobs like there is today, you know what I mean? So people used to move about a lot to wherever the work was. So you'd work at different times of the year, you would do different jobs, So they actually met doing the harvest, doing farm work in a place called Pennycook, which is outside Edinburgh, about half an hour, 40 minutes outside Edinburgh, Pennycook. And that's where they actually met. They were both Irish. Burke had abandoned his wife and family back in home. Of course they did shack up with ladies in Edinburgh. They both liked a drink, and they were both very violent. They would regularly have fights, domestic violence to their partners or wives. See a little coffee boat here. There's a little coffee boat on the barge, on the canal. Quite handy. Nice little coffee boat if you come along for a walk. And it's got little tables outside as well here. See? It's a beautifully sunny day today. Oh, does everyone know how to take postcards? Sorry, I forgot to do all the housekeeping. Does everyone know how to take postcards? Does anyone not know how to take a postcard? The big round white button at the bottom. If you see a nice view, just press the postcard button. It doesn't cost anybody any money. I don't get any monetary value for it, but it does help the tour guide if you take lots of postcards. And because we get achievement badges on our profile page, I've got over 500,000, so the next target is 1 million postcards. Also, if you are not following my channel, if somewhere on the screen you can say follow, one way you can help the tour guides is by following the channel as well. Again, we don't get any money for it. It's good just to have more followers, So I've got a target of 4,000 followers by the end of February, and I'm up to 3,800 and something. Can't remember. Anyway, so I'm about 200 away, less than 200 away. So if you can follow my channel, that's fantastic. Leaving a 5-star review is a good way to help us as well. And remember, because I'm Scottish, we have our very own superhero, and she's called Super Gran. And Super Gran checks all my reviews. And if you leave a bad review, Super Gran pays you a visit. Thank you for following my channel. When is my birthday? Oh, my birthday's in December, which confuses me, because I forgot how old I was, because my birthday's right in the end of December. And I always get confused how old I am. Sometimes I think I'm a year younger, and sometimes I think I'm a year older. See all the construction, a lot of this is student accommodation going up. This used to be where all the breweries were here. Used to be a lot of industrial areas because of the canal, obviously. Oh, from Barnsley. Is there anyone from Burnley here? I went to Burnley once. Woof. So this is the Union Canal. So we'll continue the story of Burke and Hare in a wee second. I like to send guides pictures of their funny faces for their birthday. I've got a good face for the radio, as you can see. That's why I'm behind the camera. So the canal goes right... There was plans to take this right into the centre of Edinburgh, actually. This canal. At one point, they were going to go right into the centre of Edinburgh with it. They had planned, they'd actually named... Do you know where Waverley Market is in Edinburgh? That was actually called Canal Street, because they were going to extend the canal all the way to there. How cool would that have been? Look, this is what it was brought in for. Look, the canals were... we transport rubber. In fact, when we were small, my dad used to work in a rubber factory. As you can see, all the breweries were here as well. The breweries were here, McEwan's. Of course, the first canal barges were drawn by horse before the invention of steam. Then they started getting passengers on them as well, because people realised, I think it took about 9 hours to get to Glasgow from Edinburgh. You can still go on it now. My dad got married on a barge here, actually, second marriage. You can get married on a barge and go for a wee cruise and all that. That's some art. Look at that, some kind of abstract art. Quite bizarre. 3D. So, Thomas Telford, he was one of Scotland's greatest ever engineers. Work started in 1818, and the canal was completed in 1822. The estimated cost was £235,000, but the actual cost ran to £405,000. As you can see, even in these days, things were going over budget. Look, this is, I'm digging it out, look. That's them who found the barge. Archaeologists. An early to mid-19th century barge they discovered. Look at that. Quite cool, eh? So yeah, so it was mostly brought in for coal, to transport coal. But yeah, so Burke and Hare did meet here. By the way, you know how Burke and Hare, right? Burke and Hare has got an E on the end of it, right? Burke, his name was B-U-R-K. Nobody knows where the E came from. So the year is 1827. So you're talking nearly 200 years ago now, isn't it? 1827, it's late November. And by this point, Hare is living in a house with a woman who he calls his wife, and they run a guest house together. And Burke is living there too with somebody he calls his wife, although he was already married back in Ireland. And they both loved to drink lots of whiskey. They were both alcoholics. And they were known to fight each other quite a lot, abuse their wives and so on. They were quite nasty characters. And I live in Leith. As some of you will know, I live in the port area in Leith. And believe it or not, Burke was actually a cobbler in Leith as well. Burke was a cobbler. He trained to be a cobbler in Leith. So yeah, Leith's got a bit of a few dodgy connections. So you can actually stay on this barge here as well. Thank you for following my channels, everybody. My channel, everyone who's followed. So see, you can stay on some of them. I think one's up for sale, actually, one of these barges. This one's a social enterprise here. There's a social enterprise barge, and you can hire it for events and so on. So it's run as a not-for-profit for the community and so on. Yeah, the Reunion Canal Boat. Hello everyone who's joining, thank you very much for joining. We're just talking about William Burke and William Hare. We're in the Union Canal in Edinburgh. See that? So you can hire it, Reunion. So it's a social enterprise. In fact, Invisible Cities were on there a couple of months ago, just before Christmas. Invisible Cities, who I used to work for, were on there. One of our tour guides, trainee tour guides. Alan, he's a volunteer on the boat. It's run by volunteers as a not-for-profit thing. Quite handy, eh? Yeah, so William Burke and William Hare did work on this canal, but they never met here. They met working outside Edinburgh. And Burke and Hare are living in a guest house. Whoa. And what happened was, in late November 1827, one of their lodgers dies. An old guy called Donald. As you can see, we've got yappy little dogs. I wouldn't like to be living next to them. Yeah, one of the lodgers called Donald died, right? And he owed £500. He owed £500. He owed £4 in rent. Now, £4 was quite a lot of money in the days. And what happened was, back in these times, you had to set the scene, right? At the start of the 19th century, Edinburgh is one of 3 centres for anatomical science. So Edinburgh was one of the leading places in the world for the study of anatomical science. Edinburgh alone had 500 medical students, and there was a roaring trade in bodies because each medical student had to dissect a body to qualify as a doctor. So you've got 500 doctors in Edinburgh alone, so you need at least 500 bodies. The only bodies that could be used for dissection and medical purposes was people who died in prison and suicide victims, or people who were executed. Okay? So there was a roaring trade in body snatching. So there was 3 main gangs, 3 main types of people who'd done the body snatching. You had the grave robbers, the grave diggers. So the grave diggers were quite poorly paid. I know, it's freezing. The grave diggers were quite poorly paid. So what they would do is they would tell the professional gangs. So there was professional gangs of body snatchers too. So they were stealing the bodies because that was their job. So the grave diggers would tell them where the bodies were, or they would sell the bodies to them directly. The third gang, who was robbing the bodies, was the students themselves. Because some students were so poor, you had to pay tuition fees in these days, unlike today. The students would either steal a body so they could dissect it themselves to save them buying a body, or they would steal bodies to sell them to pay for their tuition. So there you go, this used to be the Edinburgh's meat market. Look at that, they've kept the arch. You see it, 1884. Edinburgh's meat market. There was a disco here just round the corner, and that was a bit of a meat market as well. They've kept this arch. It's all office blocks now. Like Chalmers buildings. Yeah, so there was 3 main types of gangs stealing the bodies: the resurrectionists, students, professional gangs, and the grave diggers. Okay? So there was a roaring trade. So the medical students and the doctors would have to buy bodies as well. And of course, no questions would get asked. The fresher the body, the more money you got for it. So when Donald died, Hare came up with a plan. It was Hare's idea to begin with. Hare came up with a plan because he was due £4 from Donald for his rent. So he suggested to Burke that they sell the body to cover the rent, and they'll split the rest of the profits. At first, Burke was quite reluctant, but he's not got much money. It's late winter. Christmas is coming up, although Christmas was banned at this period. New Year was coming, so they'll be celebrating New Year. So reluctantly, allegedly, Burke decided to help Hare, and they sold the body. This is where a Dr. Knox comes in. Now, Dr. Knox was notorious. He was the main doctor who was buying all the bodies. Right, so when they sold Donald, they got £7 and 10 shillings for him. £7 and 10 shillings they got, which was quite a lot of money. So Hare took the £4, and they also had to give his wife £1 for the use of the house. But Burke still got £2, which was quite a lot of money in these days, and that lasted a few months. It lasted a few months until about springtime. And of course then, Hare had actually bought a couple of pigs and so on. But then again, Burke is out for a drink, and he's come home one night, And there's an old lady called Abigail sitting, a lodger who was just passing through called Abigail, an elderly lady. And of course Hare's gave the nod to Burke. Do you think we should kill this lady and sell her to the doctors? She's not got any family, she's just passing through for one night. Nobody knows she's here. Nobody's going to miss her. So what did they do? They got her drunk. They got her drunk as a skunk on Scotch whisky. And then what their method was, how they would do it, the two of them would act together. Burke would lie on top of the victim, so they couldn't move. And Hare would suffocate them with his hands. Because the thinking was they didn't want any marks on the body. Because the fresher the body, if there was no marks on it, if it was in good condition, they would get £10 for the body. So that's what they did. They got her drunk. You had one last great night. You got drunk. You fell asleep. And you never woke up. So at least it was quite painless, the method of death. I don't think opium was out at this point. Oh no, it was opium. Was it opium out back then? I'm not sure actually. Because opium used to be used by mothers to kill their babies, desperate mothers, infanticide. Opium was used quite a lot to kill babies by poor desperate mothers. Because again, there was no marks on the body. And it was a painless die of dying as well. But Burke and Hare just got them drunk and suffocated them. So that was that, yeah, good profits. Good profits. So again, they took the body to Dr. Knox. And because the body was fresher than Donald was about 4 days old by the time they got him to the doctors. And yeah, they got £10. And again, they had to give £1 each to the wife for the use of the guest house. It was her guest house. So she got an extra £1. And then they got £4 each between them. How cool was that? So that's like you're talking a year's salary or something like that almost at that time. But of course they just drank it all again. They were both alcoholics, drinking the bevy all the time, drinking whiskey all the time. And yes, so obviously, what did they do? They just started killing anybody. They would roam the streets, the pubs at night in Edinburgh, looking for drunk victims. And again, it was the same method. They would get them drunk. They would pass out. And then they'd be suffocated. So, yeah, their method worked quite well. It was a very efficient system. And of course, most of the people who they killed were just passing through. Nobody knew they were there. So they weren't missed, you know what I mean? But they tended to pick on victims from outside the town as well. So we're underneath, we're coming into the old town here now. And look how Burke and Hare have been represented today in this bar. How could suffocating be painless? Well, because you'd be passed out, you wouldn't feel it. You'd be drunk, you're... A gimbal. Yeah. No worries, buddy. So this is the Burke and Hare pub. They're represented here. But look what it is, it's a lap dancing bar. This area here is actually called, there's 3 stripper bars. Look, there's the Burke and Hare there. There's Baby Dolls show bar. Right? 1, 2, 3. The Western bar. So this area here is called the pubic triangle. The pubic triangle, because there's 3 lap dancing bars on the corner. Isn't it funny that it's called the pubic triangle? I do like that. It's quite funny. So this is us coming in now to the Grass Market area. And Canadians and Americans, don't get excited. You can't buy grass in the Grass Market. It's not that kind of market. But look at this. Get your postcards ready, everybody. Get your postcards ready. I've got to show you one of Edinburgh's finest buildings now. Are you ready with your postcards? 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Isn't that one of the ugliest buildings you've ever seen in your entire life? I wouldn't even call it brutal. Is it brutalist architecture? I would just call it a disgrace. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, can you believe it? And somebody the best thing is, or the worst thing is, it's actually owned by the local authorities. The local authorities somehow decided that was an appropriate looking building to put in a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I mean, come on. It's one of Edinburgh's most hated buildings. Jesus God. And the thing is, see the land, because it goes all the way back. It goes all the way back. It's a massive piece of land. That would be, the land there would be worth tens of millions of pounds. Why World Heritage Sites? Susan, Edinburgh, the main centre of Edinburgh is split into two zones. The Old Town here, right? So the Old Town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site because it's the medieval part. There's still medieval parts of Edinburgh left. Not much, but there is. You know, you've got the castle, the Royal Mile and so on because of that. They have got some medieval buildings still left. And the new town was created in the 18th and 19th century. And that's all Georgian architecture. So because it's all the Georgian architecture and monuments, that's listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. Scotland has got 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So we'll get to see a little bit of the Old Town, but I'm just going to cross the road, because I'm going to go and show you where his house was. The guest house that they owned, where they committed most of the crimes, was across here. Obviously the building's not here anymore. Most of the Old Town was demolished in the 19th century, the late 19th century. Most of the Old Town was demolished. But this is where his house, the guest house, used to be for Burke and Hare. Oh, where is it? Oh, I missed it. I missed the lane. I think I'd done this the last time. I think I missed the lane and I had to go all the way back up. Or is it this one here? Yeah. Yeah, I did. Anyway, I'll show you it from this angle. I'll show you a picture of the castle. Anyway, get ready with your I'm not being funny this time. If you get ready with your postcards, and I'll show you a nice picture of the castle. In fact, look at this. Look. See what I can see poking up there. Yeah, that building. Yeah, you have to be careful. If you do too many changes to a UNESCO World Heritage Site, you can lose the UNESCO World Heritage status. Liverpool, I think, was in danger, or if it didn't get stripped, Liverpool was going to get stripped of its UNESCO World Heritage Sites because they made too many changes. So Edinburgh could be at risk, you know, because you can lose your UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So this is where his house was here. See here, Tanner's Close. Yes, well done, Joe. You know quite a lot about Burke and Hare. So this is it here. Roughly around here. Whoop. Somebody's on the bevy. So this is it here. So some of the walls look quite old here, you know what I mean? But, yeah. So, that's the bit I was trying to get through, but it's locked off. You'll see some of the houses, the way they've got the houses with the balconies going along. Well, not balconies, that's the access. See, people walk on, that's how you get in. These are houses, yeah. They're actually they're what we call council houses here. They're owned by the local, look at this. A car. Where is it gone? Where are you going? That way. Unbelievable, didn't it? Not even no cars were allowed here. See, it just shows you. Anyway, there you go. Bonnie, hello Bonnie. How you doing? So this is where his house would have been. So in a 10-month period, they killed 16 people. They actually killed 2 people in one night. One time, they killed 2 people in one night. An old lady and her son, or her nephew, something like that. But they were taking more and more risks as well. And they killed a boy called, now this is not my name that I gave him, okay? This is the name he was known as. It's not me calling him this name. So please don't get offended and think it's me doing this. but the guy's name was Daft. He was called Daft Jamie. Obviously, you can imagine from that he had some kind of mental health issues, but that's what he was known as. And he was quite a strong wee laddie. And he put up a bit of a fight when they done the same trick, you know, got him drunk and all that. He put up a bit of a fight. They reckon they made maybe about £10,000 in total, which is quite a lot of money. Here we go, Edinburgh Castle. Surprised they didn't try to kill each other. Yeah, well, Hare killed a horse once, his horse. Usually their method of transportation of taking the bodies to the doctor was in a tea chest, you know, a big wooden box, and they would pay a porter. There was a guy who specialised, there was like people who, that's what their job was, a porter. So you would just hire them. They wouldn't ask any questions. But one time they tried to take a body on a horse, on Hare's horse, and the horse refused to move. So they had to take the body in a tea chest. And they, do you know what he done? Do you know what Hare done? He went back, he was raging about the horse. He went back and he shot the horse. He shot his own horse because the horse refused to move the body. What a numbskull, eh? Maggie Hare kind of did. Yeah. What's the colour on the church? What do you mean, what's the colour? What's the colour? They plants were fake, by the way. They're not real. They're fake. That's listeria. Is it wisteria? Listeria. Wisteria. Yeah, it's fake. It's plastic. Looks good, but wisteria, that's the one. Yeah, it's wisteria. But they're fake. But it looks nice. Yeah, Hare was the worst. He was a right cretin. So there you go, a couple of pictures, nice postcards of Edinburgh Castle for you. We're in the Grass Market area now. So yeah, so how did it get caught? Well, this is where we used to throw them. Burke and Hare used to throw. You just drop something, buddy. Don't know if it's value, but just in case, eh? Could have been money, buddy, eh? See the guy dropping stuff. Yeah, this is all the pubs, so there's not much of the original Old Town left, because you see the buildings, 1868. Up there, I don't know if you can see it, 1868 on the building. So a lot of the Old Town's not here from the Burke and Hare period, 1828. So all the Old Town got demolished, but this is where they would have roamed. It was quite similar layout, obviously, and this is the area we would have roamed, looking for victims, you know, trawling all the pubs, looking for people to take home. They actually got one of their victims one time from a policeman, right? They were going home one night. Was it Burke or Hare? I can't remember. Burke or Hare was going home one night from the pub, and they stumbled across a policeman who had found a drunk lady passed out in the street. Well, of course, Burke straight away says, "Oh yes, I know her, that's my friend, I'll take her home." So the policeman actually gave one of their victims to Burke, and they took her back and obviously disposed of her. House is above the pubs, yes, look at this part, look. In the White Hart Inn, the pub next door, Robert Burns stayed during his last visit to Edinburgh. There you go, Robert Burns connection. There's a sign on the Royal Mile that says, see, people are so nosy, man. Honestly, people are really nosy. People standing behind me watching me and all that. I'm like, what are you looking at, man? That's quite unusual, right enough, you know. I suppose you must look like a twat, walking about with a gimbal and a camera, talking to yourself. You do get strange looks sometimes. When I first went to Spain and used the gimbal over there, everybody who I was walking past was looking at me. In fact, when I went back at Christmas, there was a tour I was doing once. I think it was on Christmas Day, and I was walking along the promenade singing songs to everyone. You should have seen the looks I was getting. Somebody called me a weirdo and everything. It was so funny. So this is a very tourist area now, as you can see. It's all bars and bistros and restaurants. Edinburgh's got 20% of its population are students as well. Lots of students live in Edinburgh. Yes, their houses above the pubs. They're very noisy. Up until the 1980s, this was a very undesirable area. There was a couple of homeless hostels here. See here? They had the Grass Market Mission and so on. There was churches and religious places. Was I drunk? No, it was on Christmas Day, during the day. Sober as a judge. I see people house shopping using live video to stream. Yeah, videos, live streaming is getting very popular. What restaurant was it I went to? Yeah, we went to that one there on my tour last year. It was terrible. The food was, the Italian restaurant, it was terrible. Sarah, David, hello. Adam, where did I get David from? No idea. El Toro Loco. Yeah, so, Burke and Hare. How did they get caught? Well, they actually had relatives over. There was a big fair on, and they had relatives staying in their guest house. And so they killed their final victim, a lady called Mary Docherty. And they just put the body under the bed to keep her there until they could take the body to the doctor, the cadaver, as they were called. And of course, one of their guests saw the body under the bed and went and reported them to the police. See the pub? Adam. The last drop. See the hanging noose. So that's how they were caught. They disposed of a body under the bed, and one of their guests saw it and reported them. See the hanging noose? See the hangman's noose? I like the light on that, you know. They've turned the hangman's noose into a light bulb. Quite macabre, actually. That's the last drop, is when you get executed, you get the last drop of whiskey before you get hung. They could also reference the last drop of the trapdoor. You know, when the trapdoor opens, the last drop, because that's the last thing you see is the last drop. So there's two reasons it's called the last drop. It's very touristy down here now. The rugby's on because of the Six Nations rugby tournament. The lots of people come to Edinburgh to watch the rugby. Of course, you've got the scooter club comes on the weekends as well. The Vespas and the Lambrettas. I used to be a mod. I used to be in fact, what's that? Is that a Lambretta? What's that orange one? It's quite a cool wee one, that. Yeah, I used to have a Vespa. I was actually thinking of getting one this year. I might get a Vespa. The only problem is they're freezing cold. It is a Lambretta. Look, I used to have a Lambretta. Look at that, man. That's a cracker. Look at the wee Lambretta. 125. Beautiful, eh? That's been well restored, that, like. Beautiful. Yeah, I had a Lambretta 90 when I was young. It got stuck in second gear. Tours on a Vespa. I could do that right enough, eh? Just strap the gimbal to my head. Like, this is where they used to execute people here. Burke never got executed here. He got executed in a prison. Not on the Royal Mile. Look. See the outline of the gallows. We are the mods, we are the mods, we are the mods. It was all to do with a movie called Quadrophenia came out. There was a second generation mod revival. Look, the smallest pub in Scotland here as well. Thank you, Dave, for leaving her. Oh, Emma wants to be a hangman. Paul makes a good mod. Mod means modern. The smallest pub in Scotland. That's funny because Invisible Cities were in Manchester. I went on a pub. One of our tour guides in Manchester does a tour in Manchester about pubs. And I think they've got the smallest pub in the world in Manchester. Can somebody go and Google for me? And Google the smallest pub in the world is in Manchester? I'm sure it is. I think it's got like one table. So actually it's the smallest pub in Scotland. Carrie, Candace, hello, how you doing? Or a head chop chopper. You want to be a head chop chopper? What does a head chop chopper do? Chops heads. Look, I'll get you some postcards. Then we'll continue the story with what happened to Burke and Hare once they got caught and arrested. Scandal. Trisha. So can you go and Google the smallest pub in Manchester and find out why that's not the smallest pub in the world? Because I'm sure that's what the guy told me on the tour. He wasn't giving me wrong information, was he? The signal box in, is it? Well, the person in Manchester must have been lying then. I'll get you a postcard of the street, by the way. Let's see, before we continue with the Burke and Hare. I done a Harry Potter tour yesterday. Any Harry Potter fans, if you follow my channel, I'll put up another Harry Potter fan for a couple of weeks, a Harry Potter tour. We get you to tell all about Harry Potter. Ed, there was a queue. This shop, now you've got to bear in mind, this is February, right? That's the main Harry Potter shop. There was a queue outside there yesterday to get in. A queue of people. This is Victoria Street. Circus Tavern, is that one? Hey Tricia! Executed for a loafy breed. The problem is with this spot is you can never get it with no people in it. This is called Victoria Street or the West Bow. It's all independent little shops, isn't it? Nice. It's supposed to be the inspiration for Diagon Alley, but I don't think it is. But it's quite nice. Thank you for leaving the tip, Joe. So there we go. Hope you got some nice postcards there, everyone. She's very popular for Instagrams. That used to be the joke shop as well. See there? Look, it sold. It was a joke. It was a famous joke shop, and now it's been bought, and it's now selling tweed and cashmere for tourists, of course. Oh, where's the picture of Jamie from Outlander? Usually there's a picture of Jamie from Outlander there. It's gone. Outlander's going to finish soon, isn't it? Any Outlander fans? Outlander's finishing. No more. What is that statue in the middle of the road? What statue? This here? Do you mean this building? This is a well. That there? Carrie? Yeah, Leiden Hall. Yeah, that's a well. They got in a well, a gravity-fed well system. 1764. They kept a big water tank in Edinburgh and pumped it down. Yeah, Deborah, Leiden Hall Market is not Diagon Alley. Because people do think it is Leiden Hall. Some people think it's Edinburgh here, and some people think it's a York shambles. It's not, it's nowhere. Joanne Nolan confirmed that she completely made it up. It's not based on anywhere. Diagon Alley was completely made up. She didn't base on anywhere, she just confirmed it a few months ago. Because I do a tour about busting the myths and legends, and I find out all the truth behind all the crap that gets told. And yeah, so Diagon Alley was just completely made up. It's not based on anywhere. So, just goes to show you, you know. But so Burke and Hare got caught. They all got arrested, including the wives. Right? The wives got arrested as well. Or the so-called wives, anyway. They're supposed to stop and let you cross, but of course they don't. So they've all been arrested. Now the good thing is, remember the method they were using to kill the people? It actually became known as Burking, you know, getting them drunk and suffocating them. It became known as the Burking method. And because that, there was no evidence. There was no marks on the body as well. So they only actually got done for one body. Out of the 16 victims, they only got arrested and charged for one body. The last one, because that's the only one they had. There was no other evidence. Yeah, the wives knew what was going on. The wives definitely knew what was going on. They definitely knew what was going on. Oh, by the way, just as a... It's nothing to do with anything, but see here, this is Europe's first Virgin Hotel. You know Richard Branson? Richard Branson, the Virgin guy? This is the first Virgin Hotel. Look, Virgin Hotels, can you see it? Virgin Hotels. So this is the first one in Europe. Did the doctors know? Yes, well the doctors never got arrested. Dr. Knox never got arrested. He was shamed, he had to go and live in London, he had to leave Edinburgh, Dr. Knox. But yeah, the doctors were not arrested. You know what I mean? They weren't arrested. But because there was no evidence, right, the police were struggling to build a case. So what happened was, Hare decided to cut a deal with the police. He basically turned informer. So Burke basically turned King's evidence, as it's known. He basically grasped on Burke. And by the way, just as a Another thing, there is a bit of a debate about the first victim, Abigail. You know, Donald died of natural causes, allegedly. Well, both Burke and Hare, when they eventually confessed, they put the killing of the first victims in different orders. So nobody knows for sure who the first victim was, because they both gave conflicting evidence. So it just goes to show you, doesn't it? So because Hare turned King's evidence, he got off scot-free. And so did the wives, they got away as well. They got away, the wives got away. So poor Burke was the only one that got tried and sentenced to death. He was sentenced to death on Christmas Day, actually, 1828. And then they hung him about, I think it was the 28th of January he got hung. And of course, as was the law, he could be used for medical science himself. So that's what happened. He got used for medical science. 25,000 people, 40,000 people applied for tickets to go and see him getting dissected. 25,000 people turned out for the hanging. And the people living close by were delighted, because there was so many people wanting to see the execution. They were renting out their rooms and their balconies, charging people 5 shillings to see the execution. Did Burke's body get sent to Knox? No, Knox was left. He had to leave Edinburgh in shame. He never got done, but they knew, you know what I mean? They knew it was him. So yeah, he got off. And so Burke was publicly dissected. The doctor took a pint of blood out of his body and wrote a letter. Some of his skin was used for notepads, notebooks and so on. He's deaf. You can actually go and see it in the museum. And of course his skeleton is kept on display. I'm going to put it in the chat. So there's his skeleton. Because he was such a nasty man, the authorities decided that he does not deserve to get buried. So he was publicly dissected, and his skeleton is kept on permanent display in the Anatomical Museum in Edinburgh. I've been to see it. You have to book it at the weekends. There's only so many days of the year you can go and see the skeleton, but yeah, you can go and see him. So that's him there. Roma, Amandia, it's coming to the end of the tour. Yeah, so he doesn't get to rest in peace. And so there's, oops, sorry. There's his death mask. See, I've put another chat in. So they made a death mask of him out of his, you know, like they recreate things. So that's enough. So I've put a picture in the chat. I reckon this was what they looked like. So I've put another photograph in the chat. So that's Burke and Hare in the chat. If you look at that as well. And this is the way they've done the... There's another image put in the chat as well. And guess what happened, right? So after Burke got dissected, Hare was eventually let go, and he was put in a horse and carriage and taken down to the west coast of Scotland to Dumfries. But allegedly on the way there, somebody recognised him, and he was last seen walking to England. Nobody knows what happened to Hare. There's rumours that he ended up as a beggar in London, but there's rumours he also fled back to Ireland as well. But nobody actually knows what happened to Hare. Nobody knows for sure. I think historians just can't find. The trail goes cold, you know. Hare is on the left, yeah. And I'm just going to put I actually made a rhyme. I think I put the right one in. Yeah, there's actually a rhyme written. Up the close and down the stair, Button Ben with Burke and Hare. Burke's the butcher, Hare's the thief, Knox the boys that buys the beef. So as you can see, this is why the gravediggers, this is why Burke and Hare turned to killing, because the graves, the people's family would put mort safes and cages over the bodies to stop the gravediggers, the the Bodysnatchers stealing them. There was different kinds of cages, or mort safes as they're called. People would also put booby traps into the coffins. They would put in like big metal Venus fly traps. They would also, some people, actually, believe it or not, some people actually put dynamite into their coffins with their families' bodies. Dynamite they would put in. Can you believe it? I mean, what did they think would happen to the body if the dynamite exploded? The body would get blown apart as well. The cages were tended to be owned by the churches, by the way, because most people were poor. People couldn't afford to buy them, so the churches would rent them out to the families. You know what I mean? So that's why and same with the coffins. Most people were not buried in coffins. See in here, we don't even know how many people are buried in this graveyard. There could be 100,000 bodies. There could be 500,000 bodies here. Nobody knows. Because what they would do is, especially during times of plagues, they would just dig pits and chuck the bodies in. There's at least 3 big massive pits in this graveyard with bodies. You can't get buried here anymore. There's not enough space. And all the bones started coming up through the ground and all that as well. So, because of all the popularity of the Harry Potter and the ghost tours and everything. So, every so often the ministers got to rebury the bones that come up. So what they would do is, as well, to give the dead people dignity, you know what they would do? The churches would hire out coffins that were reusable coffins. So the coffins would have a latch on the bottom of the coffin. So they would dig the grave, hold the service, and they would carry the coffin over to the grave. They would pull the handle, the lever, and the bottom of the coffin would open, and the body would fall nicely into the grave. But what happened was, as well, yeah, I think reusable coffins are a great idea. I'm actually starting a campaign to bring back reusable coffins, because coffins are really expensive. You know? They're really expensive coffins, so I think it's a great idea for environmental purposes. You can get cardboard coffins and all that and all. You see, grave first, Bobby. But what happened was, people started copying the murders. As far away as London, people started copying the Burke and Hare method. But you know what? Natalie from London told me they used a slightly different method in London. They would get the victims drunk, right? But in London, they would drown them in a bucket of water or a barrel of water. So they used a slightly different method. So in 1832, the authorities had to change the law because there wasn't enough bodies. You know, there wasn't enough suicide victims or people getting executed. So they extended the scope of people who could get used for bodies, for public dissection and anatomical science. So if you died in hospital or prison, they could use you. One of the laws still exists today, actually, is they changed the law so you could donate your own body to science. That law still exists. Scotland has now got an opt-out system. And the first people to donate their bodies was actually the doctors themselves, because they wanted to enhance the science, you know. So look, feeding the bees saves the cost of a funeral. I want a coffin made of sweets in case I get hungry. I think I'm going to get cremated, I don't know. But yeah, so that's in 1832, they changed the Anatomy Act so you could use more bodies. So, in fact, here we go. See this here? This is a bone pit. See this here? See all the bones that come up? If the bones get washed up, or because of people walking on the graves and all that, the bones are reburied in here. So that's called a bone pit. So every so often the minister has to hold a service and rebury the bones. So there you go. So quite strange, how all the bones coming up. So that's what. In fact, you've got to buy a pass to get in here now. You've got to buy a pass to come in here. See, you've got to get this pass from the council to come in. £75 a year. Luckily, I've got the one from Invisible City still. But yeah, in March it runs out, so I need to get another one. So that's the story of Burke and Hare. I hope you enjoyed the story of Burke and Hare. If you're in Edinburgh, you can go and see the skeleton, and you can go to the museum and see the skin and all that. But there was also a strange case, right? I'm going to post an image and look at this image. Look, see the coffins. In 1836, so you're talking, he got executed in 1829. 1829 he got executed in January. So 7 years later, in 1836, some young boys were playing in Arthur Seat, you know the extinct volcano? I do tours from there sometimes. And they found 17 miniature coffins. And they were all, and like, because some people think they were linked with Burke and Hare. If you Google 17 coffins of Edinburgh, it tells you about, they think it's the Burke and Hare victims. But how come there was 17? You know, so as I'm saying, there's still a bit of dubiety about the numbers and all that. So, but yeah, and I think 8 of the coffins still survive in the museum as well. But again, nobody knows. They were all perfectly little dressed in like little outfits and all that. So it's quite a strange case. The case of the 17 coffins of Edinburgh. So if you want to go and Google that, oh yeah. So I hope you've all enjoyed the tour. In fact, for some of you new people, I normally only do this on my Harry Potter tour, right? But I'll just do this for a laugh, seeing as I'm here. There's some people who have not been on my tours before, so Edinburgh has got a real-life poltergeist. This is a haunted graveyard, okay? Edinburgh is one of the most haunted cities in Edinburgh. And we've got a real-life poltergeist called Bloody Mackenzie. If you've seen this, you can just leave if you want. Thank you very much. If you can leave a tip, by the way, as well, make it worth our while coming out in the cold. If not, if you can leave a review, please. Thank you very much. But yeah, there was in the 17th century, there was 1,200 people kept in an open-air prison over here, right? And the man in charge was George Mackenzie. And he was a nasty, evil man. Hundreds were executed. Their heads were chopped off and put on spikes around the city walls, and so on. There was 600 left. They were fed 4 ounces of water a day. 4 ounces of bread and water a day. He used to torture them and everything. He was a horrible, nasty man. They reckon he killed up to 12,000 people in his lifetime. They were all kept in an open-air field. Here, look. You see the padlock on the door? Look. So that was an open-air, there was nothing in there. It was just an open-air field enclosed by a wall. 1,200 people kept in there till November. Hundreds were executed. But remember the padlock, right? There was 600 left alive, so they were packed onto a ship and sent off to the colonies as a punishment. However, near Orkney, the boat crashed. The boat crashed near Orkney. They all got killed, right? So when George Mackenzie died, for some reason they decided to bury him in here, the Black Mausoleum, right next to where he carried out some of his worst crimes, right? So that's the Black Mausoleum. Mackenzie's buried in there, right? Look how close it is to where he carried out some of his worst crimes there, right? But in 1998, a homeless person called Sonny broke in looking for shelter. Now, unbeknown to him and most other people, the gravediggers had dug a pit, and there was a pit full of stinking bodies. But it's different levels going down, and the poor homeless person fell into a pit of bodies, and some of the bodies had still had gunk and goo and flesh and stinking and all that. Can you imagine how dirty it would have been? Ugh. And what happened was the poor man ran out. It was pitch black at night, right? So the poor man ran out. He ran down here, right? Screaming. He thought he was terrified. So there was a man walking his dog, right? He saw the poor guy coming out. He thought he was getting attacked by a zombie. The dog got such a fright, he ran off in one direction. The owner ran off in a different direction. And the homeless guy went off in a different direction too. They've all disappeared, right? So ever since then, people started to report they've been attacked. You would get pushed over. You would go home with scratches and burn marks and bite marks. Over 400 people have been attacked in this very graveyard. That's why the padlock's on that gate. Most of the attacks were getting carried out there. And they reckon it's this guy here, Bloody Mackenzie. Right? So there is a way we can raise the spirit of the poltergeist. I've got to say a special rhyme. right? So wish me luck, everyone. He's never come out yet. But if he does, if he comes out, the screen will go black. Wish me luck. Mackenzie! Come out if you dare. Draw the snake and lift the bar.